So next we want to cover quickly loops, arrays, and operators. And we'll actually constants. We'll review constants quickly too. That's pretty quick. So let's just go ahead and give this another name. Let's name this one loops. We'll do loops first. Let's say, actually, I'm sorry. Let's name it a for loop. If you already hit save, that's okay. But I think for loop would be more specific, so we're going to cover that. Okay, so once your program begins, of course, we're already familiar with our structure here. So let's go ahead and let's create an integer variable, and let's have an integer variable first for your age and one for the year. And in this tutorial, we're going to quickly review again how to use a for loop. So we're going to ask the user, send them a message, console.writeLine, how old are you? Right. And we'll actually give the year. We'll say year equals 2016. Go ahead and just give the year value. Let's go to 2016. And next, when the user types in something, after we ask them how old they are, they're going to get ready to type in something. So we're going to have them enter that in age. Now, when you are given a user, when a user is typing in a value using any kind of input structure, whether it be console.readline or whether you're making a application, a Windows Form application program, and they're using a text box or an input box, whenever the user gives the computer some information, the computer is accepting it in string format. So even if the user is putting in a number, the computer is reading it as a string of text. So in order for you to put a string of text into an integer or numeric value or variable, you're going to need to convert that value first, or you'll receive an error. For instance, before, we're accustomed to write in console.readline and then we put enter. But here we're receiving an error again because it can't convert the string data type to integer. So what we need to do is we need to put a wrapper around whatever the user enters so it can be converted into an integer prior to going inside our variable. So we're going to use the convert method and start typing convert.int to whatever data type we're trying to convert to. We're just going to use an integer. And we're going to go ahead and now type in that console.readline. So that way it knows to, hey, take whatever the user enters, convert it into an integer, 16-bit integer variable value, and then put that value into this integer variable. So now that we've done that, let's let the user know how old they are every year for the next 5 years. So in order to do that without having to write several console.writelines and or read lines rather, we want to use a for loop. So in order to use a for loop, you're going to need the keyword for, and you need to provide a condition. All conditions need to be enclosed in parentheses. So this condition is going to use a counter variable. All for loops use counter variables. You could give the variable name anything, but the most common variable name for a for loop is an for a counter variable in a for loop is I. But you could use J, I, K. The word counter wouldn't matter. And you're gonna also give say what the cap of or give I value. Start it out with somewhere I is equal to 0. And then you have to say what's the highest value of I, like what is it less than. So we said that we wanted the first how old the user is going to be for the next 5 years. So we'll just say I is less than 5. And the reason why we're saying that I is less than 5, because we know here that it starts off at 0. So for the next 5 years, it would be 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So if it hit 5, that would be a 6th year. Then every time the loop runs, we want to increment I. And these are the, we need what is called a urinary operator in order to increment I. And that's what the plus plus here is for. And urinary pretty much means that you only need one operand in order to use it. So we'll talk about that more in detail later. So every time the loop runs, the first time the loop runs, it's going to be 0. It's going to keep on running until I hits 5. And then every time it runs, it's going to be incremented by 1. So what do we want to happen? Well, first we want to, of course, display a message to say, hey, console, let's see, say console.writeLine, and we want to say your age for the year. We want to put whatever year, put the year variable, so that way it'll say what the current year is. And we know right now the value is set to 2016. And then we'll say your year, your age for the year, whatever, is, quotation mark, is, and then we're going to concatenate again what your age is. And we know that we're going to get the age from the user. Now, of course, another thing that we must do every time this loop runs, because these values here are only for executing the iterations of the loop, we also need to increment the year and the age. So again, we're going to use the plus plus to make the year go up, and of course plus plus to make the age increase as well. Then we know already if we don't put that console.read key, our program will close without waiting for a key command. So let's go ahead and run our program. How old are you? I'm going to put 33. Your age for the year 2016 is 33, 2017 is 34, 18, 35, and so on and so forth. Alright. And of course, if we wanted to do it for 10 years or 20 years or 30 years, however long, we would just have needed to change our loop conditions to make the loop be less than, just say less than 20 if I wanted to see how old I was going to be. Or 205 may be way too long. Or if you guys want to see 205, why not? That's how old I'll be for the next 205 years. That's, oops. I'm currently 33. Enter. So, in 205 years, the year 2220, I'll be 237. And so that is how for loops work.